What's up, everybody? We are having a hell of a time getting started. We're just chatting our asses off.
Yeah, we have been for fucking ever now.
Yeah, over an hour. We've had bathroom breaks, cat wrangling, all sorts of wacky shit going on over here. But we promise we are getting started now.
Now.
We're talking about some weird stuff, like normal.
No, I thought today we'd just talk about normal stuff. Like, I want to talk about China's economy, if we could.
Absolutely.
Or maybe we could talk gardening tips.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you cover China's economy, I'm going to cover why watermelon ripen so much quicker in the southern hemispheres.
Yeah. How to properly grow a hot pepper.
Yeah.
You know, the essentials. That's what we're here to talk about tonight. We're certainly not going to be talking about ghosts and vampires and demons and sexy zombies.
Sexy zombies? Is there such a thing?
Probably. Haven't you seen Return of the Living Dead?
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe they weren't sexy enough for me to play hide the salami.
Have you ever seen Frankenhooker?
Yeah, see, there we're talking. That's the hottest zombie ever, I'd say.
Yeah, sexy zombie. I mean, shit. Some of the ridiculous sexy costumes that are out there, there's no reason for it. Like, why do I need a sexy Pikachu? I don't. That's
like the normal the new wage of like store-bought Halloween costumes. Like, there's a slutty version of everything.
Yeah, literally everything. Like, hey, I'm slutty Barack Obama. What? How's that work? I don't know, but I am. I mean, you are. I see that. That's insane.
Yeah, sorry for the use of the word slutty if that offends anybody. I have no problem with people who are called quote unquote sluts, or I just call them free loving people. I don't have a problem with anything like that. So it's a shameful term.
No,
but
I don't mean it in a derogatory way at all, because, you know, who am I? You know,
we'll call them fast and fun costumes, right?
Let's just call them sexy costumes and leave it at that. We don't need to put any negative connotation to it. We're all here to have a good time, you know. But the weird thing is, there's no like male equivalent to that, you know. Like no guy is going out there. You know what? I'm gonna look for the sexy version of Wolverine. Like, what would the sexy version of Wolverine be? Like, is it extra tight in your groin area? Yeah. Are you like stuffing your crotch? Like, there's no male equivalent, and it's bullshit, Mateo. I want sexy guy costumes.
Hey, yo, the Spider-Man costume come with a V-neck?
Yeah. Where's the thong on my Venom suit? This is bullshit. My ass cheeks gotta breathe. It's Halloween.
No, I want my Venom costume just to be a thong. a shiny black and blue thong.
What would the tongue be, Mateo?
That's for some lucky lady to find out.
Hey-oh. That'll be...
That's my Halloween treat.
Stay tuned to Patreon. We're going to be having a raffle for
what
Mateo's Venom tongue.
Mateo's Venom. Oh. A what cast adults only Halloween? Our first streaming will be me in a thong fighting crime. Or
it'll be a audience of one. And I'll be clapping with one hand the entire time. All right, enough of this nonsense. We got some shit to talk about.
We started and still haven't done anything.
It's just one of those days, man. Just one of those fucking days.
This will not be O parts though, so let's jump.
No, it will not. We will be talking about it. So Mateo and I were discussing the other day about the age-old battle between vampires and werewolves. And everybody knows this is a blood feud that goes back millennia. This is before the underworld movies. This is before Ghostbusters, the animated series. Shout out to anyone who got that reference. This is not Dracula versus the Wolfman. This is an age-old feud between two super paranormal beings that disguise themselves as humans only to destroy and kill the humans that they're pretending to be, but only when they're not destroying each other. Because if a vampire sees a werewolf, or if a werewolf sees a vampire, it's kill on sight. They need to fight, and they need to destroy the other one. And me personally, I've always been team werewolf. I always thought vampires could go fuck themselves. They never really did anything to me. I like it. A lot of people feel like drawn into like the tragic romantic mystique behind a vampire, and it's never been a thing for me that was really all that interesting. Like, sure, there's a couple good vampire horror movies out there, but to me the werewolf was always the scarier monster. You know, it was always like where the vampire would be all like suave, like, hey, I'm sexy, come follow me, and maybe I'll suck your blood, maybe I'll turn you into me, you know. But the werewolf, there was none of that. The werewolf is just like, hey, I'm a fucking werewolf, I'm gonna eat your face off, and then it proceeds to do just that. And just the whole like mythology behind the werewolves, like you have to go through a magic ritual and make a deal with the devil to be able to turn into werewolves. That's always been far scarier to me. So to me, I think a werewolf would fuck a vampire's day up.
Yeah, in a battle, I definitely think that werewolves would be far superior. I don't know. I think that Hollywood's obviously given us what we perceive as vampires. And even knowing that it's so romanticized by Hollywood and films and even books. I mean, vampires, you know, you think about your typical vampire, and we know all about their abilities. And like you said, we always have to mention how suave they are and how seductive they are. But that's kind of a romanticized thing about vampires and one of their skills, isn't it? Like to be able to seduce and I think that's a flowered up version of mind control.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
definitely mind control.
Yeah, and that would be depicted way cooler if it wasn't by flashing, you know, some chest hair and them being so handsome all the time. I want to see an ugly vampire. Not one that feeds on rats, but one that looks like he's lived 1,000 years, not Tom Cruise in a powder wig.
Or you know, a hunchback or someone who looks like Sloth from Goonies, but is still able to get people to follow him and do as he says because he's a vampire. So he's automatically sexy because he wants people to think he's sexy.
Yeah, I think Hollywood still hasn't done a vampire properly. And werewolves, they almost get the same thing. Even when you're talking about like the underworld films, I don't like that it's like some organized crime looking thing, you know?
Yeah, that I wasn't a huge fan of that either, but there's definitely some good werewolf movies out there though, like American Werewolf in London.
Oh yeah, that
one's really good. Even I really like Silver Bullet too.
Oh yeah, Silver Bullet. I mean, I would say that was the first thing I saw about werewolves that I can remember. I mean, other than like TV show specials and episodes of Unsolved Mysteries and weird shit like that, but that was my first Hollywood depiction of a werewolf. That and like Monster Squad. But like the whole werewolf in a fucking Letterman jacket is just goofy anyway, Teen Wolf shit. But just a giant bestial wolf. That shit, Silver Bullet was fucking terrifying to me when I was a kid.
Yeah, it was. It really was. I haven't seen it since I was probably a teenager, so I'm curious if it would hold up now. But I remember I had these horror trading cards as a kid, and I had a Silver Bullet one.
It was fucking awesome.
The priest getting the bullet in the eye. It was great. But yeah, so has the show started yet? Oh man. Well, so even though I'm Team Werewolf, I wanted to talk about the Seattle vampires, and they're not. I think it's just kind of a name given to them because the main story where it really I guess you can tie all these things together, but one of the bigger stories that came from Brad Steiger's book Real Vampires. But it's none of these cases, well, with the exception of one, I guess, have anything to do with like sucking blood or anything like that. But it's the mannerisms and the things that happen that make it so it seems like it could be a vampire, or maybe it's, something else completely. But the first, I guess, official report of this sort of thing happening was in the summer of 1959. And there was a woman by the name of Shirley Thibault who was driving along Route 5 on her way from Aberdeen, Washington to Seattle. And on the side of the road, she sees this man who's hunched over. And Shirley was never one to pick up hitchhikers. Whenever she saw them in the past, she always drove by. But for some reason, she felt compelled to pick this person up. So she pulls over, invites him in. As soon as he gets into the car, she gets this feeling of fear for no reason. Just she becomes very afraid. And the man looks at her and he says, "Don't be afraid, Shirley." She's never met this man before in her life, but he knew her by name. And he gets into the car. And she noticed that he was wearing a hat that he pulled down really low so she couldn't exactly see his eyes and he wouldn't look directly at her. But as they were driving, he started telling her these deep personal things about herself and things that she had never told anyone, that just like her personal thoughts, opinions, things like that. And there was no way he could have known any of this. So she started to get kind of freaked out about it. And they're driving along and she realizes that this man had never even told her where they were going. And as if to answer this thought in her head, he just says, "Right here is fine." So she pulls over and he gets out and she turns around to watch him walk away. And in that brief second that he was out of her line of sight, he disappeared. She didn't see him walking any distance from his car at all.
Dude, just imagine going through that. That's a really weird situation.
Yeah. And a few weeks before that, there was a man from Everett, Washington, who reported that he had picked up a hitchhiker and that the hitchhiker was able to read his mind.
Whoa.
And after that, there was never anybody else that reported anything like that. And this was back in 1959. But I bring that up. That alone just seems like a weird story. Nothing too out there, I guess. But the main story comes from Brad Steiger's book, and this happened in autumn of 2003. This was in Seattle. There was a man named Carter and his girlfriend Suzanne who were going on a double date with their friends Greg and Karen, and they decided their first stop of the night they were going to go out to eat, and they stopped at a seafood restaurant. And after leaving the restaurant, they noticed this group of 4 teenagers that were loitering at this park near the restaurant, and they were walking past them to get to their car where they had parked. And Suzanne asked Carter if he knew them, and he said, "No, why?" And apparently one of the boys had called his name, and he didn't hear it, but Suzanne had heard it. So he turned around to look at them, and as he turns around to look at them, he sees that these 4 teenagers are starting to walk towards his car. So he's thinking that the kids are looking for trouble, and he's an adult, so rather than play with this bullshit, he just was like, "Hey, let's get in the car and we'll head. They had plans to go to the movies, so they all got in the car and they pulled away. But as they were driving past these kids, Carter looked out his window and locked eyes with one of them. And he said that his eyes were completely black. The way that he described them were black marbles. They just looked like black marbles in his eye sockets.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's creepy. So they drive, I'm not exactly sure how far, but to a nearby movie theater. They went and saw the movie, came out. And as they come out, Carter looks across the street and he sees this group of teenagers leaning up against the wall of the Chinese restaurant. And they were giving them like these really big exaggerated waves, like, almost like fake friendliness. And were giving them smiles that didn't look like sincere smiles. And then one of them called out across the street and asked how the movie was. So they're like really freaked out now. Like, did these kids get our license plate? Did they follow the car? How did they get here? How did they know we were going here? We didn't even say anything about the movies, but they thought maybe they just didn't remember talking about it or something when they left the restaurant, that they were going to go to the movies, and, thought maybe the boys just overheard it and were fucking with them. So they're like, all right, fuck this. They all get into the car and they decided they were going to drive across Seattle. So to like the other side of the city, and go to a bar and have drinks to end their night. So they end up leaving the bar at 1 a.m. And as they leave the bar, these 4 teenagers were sitting on the curb across the street looking at them.
Whoa.
Now, keep in mind, they never saw these kids with a car of any sort. And they drove all the way across town. And there could have been no way that these kids knew where they were going. So because this seems so impossible, Karen thought that one of the other 3 were pulling a stupid prank on her and was laughing it off as just being some dumb prank. Because how would these kids be able to track them through all, three different places now?
Right.
So she's thinking it's a prank, but as they're driving home, the other 3 all assure her that this definitely was not a prank. They weren't fucking with her, and this was real. What was going on was just some weird coincidence, but it was freaky. They were kind of freaked out. The kids have black eyes. They're everywhere they go. And he said when they came out of the bar and saw him, it to him reminded him of the 4 vampires from the Lost Boys.
Oh wow! So Lost Boys was already out at this time?
Yeah, this happened in 2003.
Wow, that's a bit of a distance from when that movie came out to use that as a reference.
Yeah. Well, maybe he's our age.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Yeah, well, that's wow. I was expecting, I don't know, some youngster to talk about black-eyed kids.
No, he said the way that they were acting and presenting themselves, to him it seemed a lot like the vampires from the Lost Boys.
Yeah, did they offer him Chinese food?
No Chinese food. But he did see him hanging outside of a Chinese food restaurant, so.
Yeah. Dun dun dun.
But after they leave the bar and convince Karen it's not a prank, that shit really was going on, they dropped Greg and Karen off at their apartment, and then Carter and Suzanne went home. Within a few minutes of getting home, their doorbell rings. Greg looks out the front window, and on the front porch are the 4 teenagers again. There was one leaning up against the door, and the other 3 were kind of just hanging out, lounging around on the front steps. So the one that's leaning against the door is he seems to be the leader of them, or at least he's speaking for them. So he's Kiefer Sutherland, and he's knocking at the door, and he's asking to come in. So clearly Carter tells him to fuck off. Clearly, I'm not letting you in. You've been stalking me all night. You're fucking weird kids. Get lost. And the leader says, fine, we'll leave. I just need to use your phone so I can call for a ride. And he was still like, no, I'm just go somewhere else. You're not coming in my house.
Yeah, you've been getting around all night pretty fucking good from what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So then he says, well, can I come in to use your bathroom then? And again, Carter refuses to let him in. So then after getting denied again, he then asks to come in so they can get something to eat. He said none of them have eaten and they just want a snack. And he said at every time, for each request he made, his voice seemed to get louder, but not like yelling. It just got louder, like, through magic or something. I don't know. But he said it was weird because he first asked if he could come in and use the phone. And then he asked for the bathroom and it was louder. And then he asked to get something to eat and it was even louder. And when he asked for something to eat, the other three started chiming in, almost chanting that they were hungry and they wanted to eat. And at that point, he said, Carter said that they could start to hear sirens in the distance. And his girlfriend had called the cops while he was interacting with the kids. So as soon as the cops came around the corner, he looked away to see the cop cars. And when he looked back, they were all gone.
That is very weird. Kind of makes me, it sounds like interaction with a vampire. Anybody who is listening probably knows that you've got to invite them into your home. They can't just walk into your home, according to lore anyway. But it makes me feel like a vampire story. But it makes me also think of, what if all these black-eyed kid sightings are just being mistaken as black-eyed kids and they're actually vampire stories?
And they're vampires? Yeah, dude. That's what I was thinking too, because a lot of the black-eyed kid stories they're asking to come in.
Yeah, like
that's
all
like
of them, right?
Their whole MO. They ask for a ride or they ask to come in your house.
I wonder if being invited into a car is good enough for them to do what they need to do. It doesn't have to be a house.
I mean, if they want to bite your neck while you're in the car, then yeah. But if they want to get into your house, then you still got to invite them in. But if you invite them in once, does that mean they can come in whenever they want?
Yes, supposedly.
You know who doesn't need to be invited in to kill you? Werewolves.
They don't need permission.
No, they don't. They'll fucking jump through your window and tear your entrails out, shake you around like a dog with a toy.
Oh God.
Yeah. But that's not the only report of weird vampire-y activity or weird activity. I've heard of two other stories. One of them is unverifiable. I'm just going to bring it up quickly just to link it in, but it's a post from a message board, so take it with a grain of salt. But this guy posted on a message board this story in 2010 that he was in Seattle and this panicked looking woman came up to him and asked him if he would walk her to her car. And he said he's a bigger guy, so he's someone that most people wouldn't want to fuck with, were his words. But he said he would walk her to her car, and he asked her what was going on, and she said she's being followed by these two creepy teenagers. And she pointed them out, and they were about half a block away, and they were just staring at him. So he said he locked eyes with one of the kids, and the kid just stared back at him and didn't even break his stare. And he said it seemed almost like he was mocking him. But the kids, I believe, had black eyes as well. And then he escorted the woman to her car and told her to go to the police station and report it. And that was really it. So I'm just tying that in just because it fits in. But again, it was just a message board post. But there was there's this blog called the Freaky Brain blog, and one of the writers, I think her name's Dinah, she wrote about this experience that she had with someone who claimed to be a vampire. And this took place in 2010, 3 days before New Year's Eve. And she had decided she was going to go out with a bunch of friends to a bar and drink and dance and do all of that stuff. But she was at the bar to get drinks, to get a refill for her and her friends. And on one side of her, there was a couple. And then on the other side of her, there was this random dude just kind of hanging out. And the music, I mean, if you've ever been to like a dance club bar thing, you know it's fucking loud as shit. And so you can't, like, you got to yell to hear people. And she said this guy who was just by himself was trying to talk to her, and she couldn't hear what he was saying. And he reached over and he touched her on the shoulder. And as soon as he touched her on the shoulder, all the background noise dulled down. She said it sounded like if you were to put earplugs in at a concert, that level of difference. But she could hear him perfectly. And they kind of struck up a conversation. And throughout the course of the conversation, he had admitted to her for some reason that he was a vampire. So she's like, okay, because who's going to believe that you're a fucking vampire? Yeah. You know? I'm a vampire. All right, fucking goth kid, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
But he showed her his teeth, and she said he had really nice teeth, and his canines were just slightly elongated, a little longer than normal. But she thought it was those caps that you glue in, and she said as much to him. And he was adamant that they were real. So she said, all right, well, prove to me that you're a vampire. So of course he says, well, I could bite you. And, you know, what woman in her right mind's going to be like, oh, yes, stranger who's claiming to be a vampire, go ahead and bite me.
Yeah, put your mouth on my neck.
Yeah. No. But he then started telling her things about herself. And at first she thought, like the first thing he said was, I know you're married. And she had a wedding ring on. So she's like, yeah, I am married. But then he started saying that he knew about her daughter, and then started talking about what she did for a living, and just started rattling off all this stuff about her that, well, not like secret stuff. It's personal stuff that only someone who knew her would know. So she got freaked out and tried to leave and go off with her friends. So she goes back to her friends, tells them about what's going on, and then they decided to get the fuck out of there because that guy's a fucking weirdo, clearly. And they get out of the bar, and as they're leaving the bar, he was standing at the bus stop across the street.
Oh.
So, I don't know. Was that a real vampire, or was that just a fucking weirdo who was also a stalker of internet bloggers?
Does her profession come into play when you hear about somebody like that reporting this? I mean, does the stalker thing hold any weight with you?
I mean, she's a journalist who also does blogging. So, I mean, it's possible, I suppose, but I don't know about, I haven't heard of too many people that stalk journalists, especially like not nationally known journalists. I mean, maybe I could be wrong. I don't know, but it just seems that seems kind of far-fetched to me.
Yeah, that's a hell of an experience if that did happen. For him to be outside, I mean, we all can deal with some weirdo in a club. You know, him wanting to bite her or offering to is weird, but we've all ran into weirder people, if not people just as weird in one way or another. But for him to be outside demonstrates a paranormal ability, which is, if that's what she's reporting, there's obviously something weird going on there.
Yeah, so, I mean, it sounds to me like Seattle's got a vampire problem.
Yeah, it's just all the Blade movies going on down there, right? They're even kicking it at nightclubs.
They need a fucking... They just need a patrol of werewolves to come through and wipe them all out.
They're just going to flash some type of archaic gang sign at each other and just start fist fighting in the street.
Yeah, they're gonna shoot their fucking They're gonna shoot their sunshine bullets and kill the vampires, because that's what they do. I've seen it.
Yeah, werewolves would be terrifying though.
Yeah, werewolves. You tell me a fucking black-eyed kid is gonna do anything to a werewolf. He's gonna stare at the werewolf and be like, "Oh, I am a vampire," and the werewolf's gonna be like, "I'm a werewolf, and I'm gonna literally jump right through you right now."
Yeah, that's another thing that Hollywood doesn't do a good enough job depicting, in my opinion, is, I mean, underworld, sure, I guess, a little bit, but, I mean, I don't know how strong vampires are supposed to be in lore. I'm not too into vampires either. No disrespect to anybody who is, but I don't know. I mean, like, a werewolf's going to be as strong as a giant fucking dog, right? You know, so, I mean, I don't know if vampires are as strong as 10 men or 20 men. That definitely has to come into play, but...
Yeah, I don't know about this strength. Like, I would imagine, like, I know they're stronger than humans, but as far as, like, super strength, I don't know really how much that is. And I suppose it also depends on the tradition, too, because, I mean, there's some traditions where a vampire is basically a zombie like a zombie that sucks blood.
Right.
It's not even, but then there's other traditions where they can turn into a wolf or a bat or mist and fucking float around as mist. Some traditions they can turn into rats, like a pile of rats that just skitter away. I like that shit is cool as hell. Like, you just pull up your cape and then you open your cape up and then just all these rats just fall and run away. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's a powerful foe as well. But I just, if a dog that size got a hold of you and even had a hold of anything and turned its head, I mean, you're losing limbs and shit.
Yeah, we're talking a monster wolf. Like, wolves and werewolves in horror movies they're always gargantuan. They're so big. It's like the Incredible Hulk of dogs.
Yeah. My favorite depiction of a werewolf in film is Brotherhood of the Wolves. And that wasn't that being like a giant cat or something?
Yeah, that wasn't a werewolf. It was armored lion or something, or armored tiger, something. Like, they had it all costumed up so it appeared to be immortal. They could shoot it and it wouldn't die. That movie was fucking cool, man.
Fuck yeah, it was.
You know what? So this movie sucks dick, but the transformation for the werewolf in Van Helsing was so fucking cool, where he's just like literally ripping chunks of his human flesh off as he becomes a wolf. It's so cool.
Yeah, I
loved that.
Those depiction of werewolves was pretty cool. I liked that film. I mean, it's a goofy, summer blockbuster action.
I shouldn't say it sucks dick, but it's pretty bad. It is a decent popcorn film, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I loved that transformation. They're just ripping their skin off. It's so cool.
I've got a story that has a way less cinematic werewolf transformation.
I doubt it. I bet it's the best werewolf transformation ever.
Oh, There's wait.
Lightning and fire and farts. It's amazing.
Wouldn't that be terrible if that was like the very first on-set symptoms of transforming? You're just sitting there and you beef it. You're like, oh Jesus, it's gonna happen.
No, I'm gonna be a werewolf. Why?
Please be the burrito. Please be the burrito. Please be the burrito.
Yeah.
It keeps coming.
Not the dog bite. It wasn't the dog bite. It was the burrito. I know it was.
That's horrible. One more clue to be me being a lichen.
I knew it all along.
You said it was IBS, you monster. Ah.
I know those were the werewolf shits. He got them wolf shits.
Those were them transformative toots, weren't they?
Your fart starts like,
they all have an up-squeak tone to it.
Yeah. Then that's how you know. Got the wolf farts.
Yeah, people talk about the witch trials, man. Imagine all the people in bars that were slaughtered over the centuries because they were just in the corner, with bubble guts from all the suds they were drinking. They just don't burp it out because they got a bad tummy. They just sat there cutting the cheese all night, and someone's like, "Do you smell that shit? There's a goddamn werewolf in here."
Yeah. Many a man has died over misplaced flatulence.
Yep, that's how you hunt a werewolf in human form. You just walk around and be like, "This motherfucker, Jesus." You shit your pants. You're transforming right now, aren't you?
I can smell it on him.
Check his drawers. Man. If they're clean, we need a silver bullet.
Yeah, it's like one of those witch things. Like if she drowns, oh well, she wasn't a witch. So you check the underwears afterwards. You kill them first, and then you check the underwear. Oh, we were wrong. My bad. I guess he goes to heaven.
His family comes back. He had liverwurst for lunch, you bastards.
He was lactose intolerant, and you gave him cheese.
Oh, God.
This fucking episode, man. What the hell? What the hell? I'm sorry, people. I don't know what's gotten into us tonight.
Something is trying to oparts the show like a lot. The force is
at least it's entertaining. It's not like that. Yeah. I wish somewhere that we had that old O-Parts episode. Watch it actually be like not even that bad. And we just were making a big thing over nothing.
Oh, and I think it was like an hour and 40-minute recording, and we only covered 2 of the 4 stories we had to do.
Oh, nice. Solid. We should have released it. I stand by that.
Yeah.
Guys, if you could write in and tell Mateo to release the bullshit, even though it's bullshit, I would appreciate it. Because we've scrapped stuff because of bullshit. Not like because we can't stay on topic. And it's, but tell them to put it out anyway. Say, we want the bullshit. Start a hashtag about it,
I usually, if something gets scrapped, usually it's because of sound quality.
Yeah. Or accidental deletions.
Yeah. Which doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. Remember I think it was the Black Knight satellite where we had to record it 3 times in the same week.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, dude, the 300th episode almost cost me my fucking life. Holy shit.
Why? What happened?
My computer does this thing. Well, I discovered it does this thing to where the battery wasn't working. If it was plugged in, which I leave it plugged in. If it was plugged in, it was cool, but if it was unplugged, it acted like it didn't have a battery. The battery wasn't working. So if somebody unplugged it, or I don't know, that little cable that connects to the little power supply on the cable became unplugged a little bit, and it turned off while Audacity was open, saved or not, it corrupted the file. So we recorded that in 3 parts. Each part was over an hour, and it did it when part 1 and part 2 were open and deleted all of it.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, that was horrible.
That was rough.
And I was freaking out. I was like, we got to re-record it now. And you're like, I have a job. And I was like, I don't. Who cares?
Yeah. I forgot all about that.
And then that was horrible. And then people hated it.
Right out the gates. No, like only 2 people hated it. And they hated it because of they didn't catch on with the bullshit early on. And I do feel bad about that. I didn't mean to make you guys think I was really hacked. It was just we're planting seeds. Planting seeds, guys. But, these things happen. Anyway, how's about them werewolves?
Werewolves, we've talked about them before. We talked about good old Peter Stump with his missing paw in cases where people have claimed to be werewolves. And I was reminded of one recently from a YouTube video. And when you talked about your supposed or possible vampires, I thought I'd talk about this guy. And his name was Manuel Blanco Roma Santa. And he was Spain's first recorded ever serial killer. He was known as the Tallow Man.
The Tallow Man?
The Fat Extractor.
Wow, these are crazy, scary names.
Yeah, the Fat Extractor and the Werewolf of Alariz. And he had 9 confirmed kills. He was suspected of 20. He confessed to 13. His first murder was in 1844, which he was arrested for and sentenced to 10 years. But apparently he was able to escape custody and flee using a fake passport. And he went on the run. And while he was on the run, he moved around and he worked as a mountain guide and eventually settled in a town called Riba de Choa, where he began to work as a hired hand as well as a guide. But he mainly was hired by women, as he had many skills that were at the time commonly attributed to being as jobs for women, such as cooking and cleaning. And in particular, thanks to being a former dressmaker, he was able to spin yarn and sew. So ladies, were expected to do these things every day at the time. So they jumped at the chance to have, somebody helpful like that, as well as a guide to work for them. So they did jump at the chance. And he did that for years until finally somebody noticed that some of the women and even the children of the women that hired him would go missing. And rumors started to spread until in 1852, a complaint was filed with the closest, majoring city. And this complaint alleged that good old Manny was snatching up women and their children and boiling them down and rendering their body fat into soap. And they did not like the sound of that. So in September of that year, he was arrested and brought to where he gets his namesake of the werewolf part, the Alariz, for trial. And in court, he confessed to 13 killings, but he claimed he could not take responsibility due for the fact that at the time of the killings, he was a wolf.
What?
He said that many years ago, he had been up in the mountains being a guide when he was approached by 2 wolves. He said his body started twitching and distorting until he fell to the ground, where he rolled over 3 times, and on the 3rd roll, he had turned into a wolf. And he said he stayed a wolf for 5 days, after which he came to in the woods, but this time he was accompanied by 2 dudes. And they, I guess, explained who they were. One was named Antonio, and the other's name was Don, and that they were cursed, and that Manny was now cursed as well. And that they would transform into wolves and eat people. And when asked to transform in court, he said that he was told that the curse lasted for 13 years. And that 13 years had passed about 2 weeks before his apprehension. Now, this kind of caught the attention of some of the officials in the Spanish judicial system, because some of the victims were so thrashed that they couldn't even be identified. And they thought that they very well could be been attacked by some type of animal, but an animal big enough to destroy somebody beyond recognition. So shortly after the trial, the Spanish Minister of Justice received a letter from a hypnotist living in London in support of Manny's claims. The letter stated that he had seen other cases, even had a medical diagnosis called lycanthropy, and even claimed to have cured it through hypnosis. And in turn, the Minister of Justice passed the letter on to the Queen of Spain herself, Queen Isabella II. And she, convinced by the letter, personally had Manny's sentence of death commuted to life for the purpose of study. Now, there were, I don't know how much later or afterwards, there were 3 of the victims that medically were, I guess, changed to have been killed by a wolf. And I don't know how long they decided to study good old Manny, because his death date is only a year after his arrest. And they state that they garroted his ass to death. So
what?
Yeah, they fucking...
Wow. That's a crazy... I've never heard of that as a method of execution. That's...
Oh, yeah. In Spain, they had all the good ones, man. They didn't use your sister's undies, too. They had a special fucking wooden collar that they tightened until
Oh, what?
Your shit was, yeah.
So, all right. Well, that at least it's like I was picturing like some guy literally comes up behind you with like a leather strap and just chokes the shit out of you till you die.
Here, real quick, go to Wikipedia for the word garroted, and there's the picture that they're showing is actually a Spanish designed device used to garrote people. So even with a pardon from the Queen, this was his fate at the end of it. They're like, well, cool, thanks for letting us check you out. Now sit in this cool little contraption here while we smash your esophagus.
Oh, okay. I see what you're talking about. I've seen that before. Oh God, that's brutal.
It is. It's
so brutal.
It's a Spanish word. I mean, that's where I think it came from. So they put him in that fucking thing. So I don't think they got anything useful out of him. But it's just interesting to see that some of the people he was convicted of killing was eventually ruled to be actually being killed by a wolf, by somebody who claimed to be able to transform into one. And I don't know if he's turning into a giant Hollywood-style werewolf. He said wolf, but that's got to be a pretty big wolf to be able to kill people, especially when the dude was reported to being no taller than, I think, between 5'4" and 5'6".
Well, I know a lot of the werewolves from, the older werewolves, they said that they would just turn into a wolf. They never described being a monster or a wolf man. They would literally turn into a wolf.
Right, like Stumped, right?
Yeah, and what's his name? Grenier. I can't remember his first name, but same with him. He would just turn into a wolf, regular wolf, and eat people.
Well, I gotta say, if that's the case, I think that a superpowered 1,000-year-old demon virus infected vampire would be able to just kick a dog in the rib cage and have it explode.
Oh no, this isn't a dog. This is a wolf.
I don't know.
A goddamn wolf, Mateo.
Yeah, wolves are giant. But I still think a vampire would just be able to grab that thing.
If a vampire tries to kick a wolf, the wolf is going to bite his leg and then shake it, because that's what dogs do. And then the vampire is going to be like, whoa! And then he falls over. And then the wolf eats him. And that's that. That's the way she goes.
Let's count how many times he bites me. A 1.
And if we're going to say that vampires have superpowers, then we're talking Incredible Hulk werewolves. If we're going to say that a werewolf is a guy who just turns into a regular wolf, then the vampires are going to be the stupid zombies that just drink blood.
And if they're not, they're just abusing animals, because technically it's just a wolf.
Yeah. Leave the wolf alone, all right? What did he ever do to you?
Why is there a feud? You guys just want to kick them and abuse dogs? Is that it?
Yeah, maybe just vampires are dicks. Like, they just like to kick dogs. They hate dogs. Like, fuck you, dog.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick you.
Maybe the Lycan Empire is actually the R Foundation.
I think you might be onto something.
PETA.
PETA is run by werewolves. You heard it here first on the Whatcast.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.